If you're working on correcting an anterior pelvic tilt, then I've got 4 really good exercises that you can do outside of your yoga practice to help correct your pelvic tilt. If you're excited to learn these exercises with me, then make sure you give this video a like by clicking the thumbs up button below and subscribe to my channel. If you click the bell, then you'll get notified whenever I post a new video. If you haven't already, make sure you check out this video about anterior pelvic tilts, where I talk you through what is an anterior pelvic tilt, how do you know if you actually have one, and how do you modify your yoga practice so that it can help to correct the pelvic tilt. But today we're going to talk about the exercises you would do outside of your practice. So even though your yoga practice can be a really healing and helpful tool when you practice it intelligently, I do believe that you need to do some stretching and strengthening outside of the practice throughout the day in order for those corrective exercises to have a lasting result. In that last video about anterior pelvic tilts, I talked to you about the muscles that are usually overactive and tight versus the muscles that are underactive and weak in somebody with an anterior pelvic tilt. Let's just remind us of those muscles. Now remember, muscles always work in pairs. The first pair of muscles that we need to think about are the lower back muscles, the back extensors, and the glute and the abs, sorry. So if you have an anterior pelvic tilt, you almost certainly have overactive and tight back extensor muscles. So you can see that if they're tight, this is what's going to happen. My back is going to be pulled into extension and my pelvis is going to be pulled into that anterior tilt. So tight back muscles almost always also means weak abdominal muscles because they work in pairs. So when one is overactive, the other one is underactive. So we're going to work on stretching the back muscles and strengthening the ab muscles. The second pair of muscles is the glutes and the hip flexors. Somebody with an anterior pelvic tilt almost certainly has tight hip flexor muscles because these muscles are pulling the front of the pelvis down. They're in a shortened position. And at the same time, because the hip flexors are overactive, that means their antagonist muscles, which are the glutes, are underactive. So hip flexors are too tight and strong and too overactive. Glutes are too weak and underactive. So we're going to work on stretching the hip flexors and strengthening the glutes. One thing I would like you to bear in mind when we're learning these exercises is that the rate of your progress is going to be proportional to the frequency with which you do the exercises, because your body is really intelligent. So if you're sitting for 12 hours a day and practicing yoga for 1 hour a day, or let's say doing corrective exercises for 1 hour a day, your body will make it easy for you to do the thing that you do most. Your body will adopt a position that will make it easy for you to sit for 12 hours a day. We need to try and interrupt that pattern. We need to interrupt your day, your 12-hour day of sitting, with multiple stretching and strengthening sessions. This is the way that I've found it to be the most effective. I'm going to recommend that you do these exercises at least 2, but if you can 3 times throughout the day. And I know that this is going to sound like a lot, but if you do have chronic hip or back or knee pain and you do think it's coming from this position of your pelvis, then you're going to be motivated enough to perform these exercises, because I guarantee you're going to feel the benefits much sooner than if you just do 1 session every day at the end of the day. For the first exercise, I want you to come and lie down on your back. We're going to work on our pelvic tilt and understanding and familiarizing ourselves with the position of the pelvis. So lay down and bend your knees and let the feet be roughly hip distance apart. And if you've ever done Pilates, then you'll know this movement is called an imprint. And essentially what we're going to do is go into a posterior pelvic tilt. So we're going to flatten out the lower back to the mat by engaging the abs and hold it there for 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and relax. We're going to do that 3 times, and what we're trying to do here is familiarize ourselves with the muscles we need to engage in order to go into in the opposite direction, so in order to posterior tilt. Let's do that again. So flatten out the lower back to the mat, make sure it's pressing into the mat. And then you might also feel that your glutes are engaging to help tuck the pelvis under. So here we're working abs and glutes. If you can't feel it yet, you need to tuck your pelvis more. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and relax. And then you'll feel when you relax, you go back into your natural position, which is probably a little bit too anterior tilted at the moment. Let's go again, last round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and relax. So what we're trying to do here is increase the tone in the abdominals so that our pelvis is more tucked under, aka we're going to try and bring it back into a neutral position. The second exercise I'm classing as part of the first one, so this is still number 1. We're going to do what's called a dead bug. Sounds a bit funny, but dead bugs are a really great way of stabilizing the muscles that keep your pelvis in a neutral position. So again, we're working on the abs really here. So what we're going to do is lie down in the exact same position as we did before, and again find that pelvic tilt. So can you see what I did with my pelvis? This was like when I lie down naturally, and then I'm going to tuck it under by flattening out the lower back to the mat, and then going to lift my arms and reach towards the heels and hover the legs off the mat, keeping the pelvic tilt. So not letting the lower back arch, but keeping it pressed into the floor. This might be enough for you, and you could just hold it here for 10 seconds. If you'd like a bit more, then you can gently and slowly touch one toe down to the mat and bring it back up. My pelvis position does not change. I'm staying in a posterior pelvic tilt by engaging my abs. And let's go for 10 rounds. Try to make the movements slow. Make sure that you're staying connected to the abs and that when you lower the leg, you don't lose it. So if that happens, then maybe don't go so far down with the leg. Just touch your toe halfway and come back up. If you're losing the pelvic tilt, place your legs down and reset. If you ever feel it going into your lower back, it means that your abs are not working strongly enough and you've lost the connection. Okay, and then let's bring the legs back down and relax. So you shouldn't lose the connection to that posterior tilt until you come back down again. With the dead bug, I recommend you doing 10 times on each side. That would be classed as one set. And we're going to repeat this whole sequence 3 times, 2 to 3 times, okay? So for now, we're just doing 1, and then we're going to repeat it again. Okay, we've engaged the abs, started to fire up and tone the abdominals. Now let's try to relax the opposite muscles, the antagonist muscles, which are the back extensor muscles. So we want to gently stretch the lower back muscles so that they stop being so bunched up and stop causing us compression in the lower back. One really easy way to do it is with a forward bend, like Paschimottanasana. But I don't want you to flatten your back. I want you to keep your back relaxed and rounded. And if you like, you could even engage your abs in this position, because if you engage the abs, then the back muscles will automatically release a little bit. So you could hold onto your feet and round your back and find the stretch, or you can just relax down here. Try not to overdo this one, so you don't want to put too much strain on your discs, which are the spongy bits in between the spine. You just want to find a stretch in the back muscles. If you find this one is too much for you, another really good option is child's pose. So you could have your knees wider or knees together and then reach out in front of you. And if you don't feel it, you'd need to round your back more by engaging your abs. So I would do 10 seconds in the center, deep breathing. Then I would crawl over to the left and I would do 10 seconds on the side. And what this does, it really targets one side, one of your QL muscles, the quadratus lumborum, which is a really common muscle to cause tightness and pain in the lower back if it's really tight. And then we're going to crawl back over to through the center to the other side. Stretch the opposite muscle, the opposite QL. Breathing deeply will help the muscles to soften as well. And then come back to center and relax. So that was a gentle stretch for the back extensor muscles. And remember, the key is to round the spine. Don't think about extending your back because that's just going to make those muscles tighter. Another really good option there, I would just say choose your favorite one out of these three or do a shorter version of each one. Another really nice one is to go into like a Janu Shirshasana position and then fold over the side of your straight leg, but slightly over to the side. So it's almost like you're doing a Janu Shirshasana D, where you twist around and just try to find the sensation in the QL. Again, it's that quadratus lumborum muscle that gets stretched really well here. Try not to overdo it because it's probably a very tight muscle and you'll really feel it when you come out if you overdo it. So just be gentle. Breathe deeply. And then engage your abs to come back up slowly. And then you would change sides. So I'm just giving a little bit of a twist. If I were to go straight like this, it doesn't target the QL quite so much. So I'm kind of twisting to the side a little bit. And please don't go too far too soon with this one because it feels really nice. But then when you come out of it, you suddenly realize, oh, I've overstretched. Breathing deeply. And then strong abs or support yourself to come back up to the center. Okay, we have started to strengthen the abs and we've also started to gently stretch the back muscles. Now let's think about the hip flexors and the glutes. My all-time favorite hip flexor stretch is using a wall, but I'm going to show you without the wall to begin with. So we're going to come into a lunge position from the knees, just bring one foot forwards. And the key in this stretch is to not let your lower back arch, because what it's going to want to do, especially in those of us with an anterior tilt, because these muscles are tight, they don't want to stretch, your lower back is going to try and compensate by doing what it does best, which is arch and create this extension. So we want to counteract that by dropping the tailbone down. So you engage the glutes at the back, keeping the abs switched on to pull the front of the pelvis up and keeping that posterior tilt. And then maintaining that position, we send the hips forwards towards the front heel. You'll feel it when you get the hip flexor stretch. It's higher up than the quad. So if you're not getting the hip flexor, try to come back, tilt your pelvis, and then go forwards, keeping that posterior pelvic tilt. It probably feels really intense. You could keep your hands on the floor for this one, or if you're feeling like you need a little bit more, keeping the pelvic tilt, you would start to come up onto your knee. Keep the pelvis dropped under and keep stretching forwards. Another way to increase the intensity would be to lift the back foot. You could catch the foot. This is why I say I like it against a wall, because you can put your shin up against a wall. But that's also quite a more advanced version. So just get used to this one on the floor to begin with. And for this one, I would hold each side for a good 30 seconds, even longer if you can. Okay, let's do the other side. So bring the front foot back and step your other foot forwards. Find your pelvic tilt first by dropping your tailbone and engaging your abs. and then send your hips forwards, keeping that back glute really strong. So keeping the pelvis tucked under. Don't forget to breathe. If you want to, you can stay down here. If you want a bit more, reach back and find your heel, but try not to don't lose the pelvic tilt just to get the foot behind you. So when I catch my foot here at the moment, because I'm not as warm, I lose the stretch on my psoas muscle, on my hip flexors. It goes more down towards the quads. So I'm going to just stick with this version and really focus on tucking my pelvis and sending my hips forwards. You can even think about arching your lower back. That will give you the same idea. Okay, let's release that side and bring the other foot back. Okay, now that we've released off those hip flexors, we're going to strengthen the glutes. We're going to start to fire up and activate the glute muscles. My favorite and the easiest one I find to do this is just to do a simple bridge. So not a bridge pose, which is a back bend, which we want to avoid at the moment if we have an anterior pelvic tilt, but doing a bridge, which is when you lie down on your back, find your posterior pelvic tilt. So just like we did in exercise 1, flattening the lower back to the mat, and then engage your glutes to extend your hips, to lift your hips up. Now look, I'm not doing a back bend here. This is not a bridge pose, it's a bridge. So keeping the pelvis dropping, keep the abs switched on, tuck the tailbone and engage the glutes. We're going to hold up for 10 seconds and then keeping everything engaged, slowly lower down, straight back up. 10 seconds. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and back down and back up. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and back down. Keep the pelvic tilt, squeeze the glutes. Once you're in the bridge, keep squeezing your glutes. So keep tucking the tailbone, keep lifting, keep engaging the abs and engaging the glutes to push your hips up. Now keep going in your own time, and I'm going to show you another option if you wanted to take it further. You can get glute loops or bands that you put around your thighs, and this gives you a little bit of resistance to help increase the strength of the exercise. Another option is you could put weight on your hips. So you could do, for example, lifting up, make sure everything's switched on, and then over the course of the 10 seconds you could do 5 pulses. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lower back down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and back down. So you could start this exercise by doing 5. So lifting up for 10 seconds, lowering back down, do that 5 times. If you have time, do 10 rounds. And so then we have a routine that has covered stretching the lower back muscles and strengthening the abs, stretching the hip flexors and strengthening the glutes. And what we want to do is try to repeat this sequence as much as we can. I'm going to say try to do 2 to 3 sets. So repeat this sequence 2 or 3 times before breakfast, before lunch, and before dinner. This is the way I do it because I find that then my belly is empty, so it's easier to do ab work and not to feel nauseous if you have stuff in your belly. And it's also a really good way to break up the day because you're already breaking for breakfast, lunch and dinner. So why not do 10 or 15 minutes of exercise before eating? It seems like a lot at first, but what you'll find is that after 3 or 4 weeks, once you've started to integrate this into your routine, you won't need to do it as much in order to feel the same benefits, and you will feel the difference. Even sometimes straight after one session, you'll feel like, oh yeah, those muscles are the ones I needed to engage. Maybe you feel a slight relief in your lower back or in your hips. And that's just going to increase as you keep practicing the exercises. So you might only need to do them twice a day, or maybe you only need to do 1 set 3 times a day, or 2 sets 3 times a day. Let's repeat our sequence twice more now. So if you ever want to redo these exercises with me in real time, then you can come back to this point in the video and just practice along with me. Okay, are you ready? Let's start on the back with our ab and core exercises. So lying on the back with the knees bent, we're going to do our pelvic tilt and flatten out the lower back to the mat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and relax. And again, 1, engage your abs and engage your glutes to tuck your pelvis under. 5, 6, engage your abs more. 8, 9, 10, and relax. This time I want you to do it even more strongly so that you really feel the engagement. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, tuck your pelvis under. 9 and 10, and relax. Okay, now the dead bugs. So re-establish that pelvic tilt, flatten out the lower back to the mat, and then keep it there. Lift your chest up, reach your hands out, and hover the legs up at a 90-degree angle. You can hold it here, or we're going to do 10 touching the toes to the mat. 1, 2, 3. If you lose the pelvic tilt, come back down and re-establish it. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Take a break if you need. If you're losing the pelvic tilt, I'm going to do 10 more so that we do 10 on each leg. 3, 4, keep your abs engaged. 5, mine are shaking. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Bring the feet down and then release the pelvic tilt. Okay, that was hard. Let's gently rock back up, and then we're going to do our gentle stretch for the back muscles. So choose which one you prefer. I'm going to do a forward bend, but remember you could choose to do child's pose. In fact, I'm going to do child's pose. Or you could do the side stretch to get more into the QL. So I'm going to go for the center for 10. 1, 2, remember you could round your back more if you're not feeling it. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then gently walk over to the side, stretching one side. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then gently walk back through the center to the other side. Keep breathing. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Come back to the center and then gently come back up. Hip flexor stretches. We're going to stay for a minute on each side this time. If you can, stay for longer. Let's go for the right side first. So stepping forward into a lunge, tucking the tailbone under, engaging the abs. Start to lean forwards with the hips, sending them towards the back heel. Only go as far as you can without arching your lower back. Keep breathing. Take the back foot if you like, if you don't lose the stretch, or as long as your lower back doesn't start to arch. For the last 10 seconds, see if you can go for it more. So tuck the tailbone more and find an even deeper stretch on the hip flexor. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then gently push back up. Change legs. Tucking the tailbone, sending your hips towards your heel. Should feel it right up in that hip flexor, in the psoas muscles and other hip flexors. How can you drop your tailbone more? How can you tuck the tailbone and engage the abs to find and make sure you're catching that hip flexor? And then push back up to center and relax. Let's do our glute strengthening. Laying down on the back. If you have a band, go ahead and take your band. We're just going to do 5 rounds, but if you have time, do 10. So flattening out the back to the mat and then engage your glutes to lift up. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and back down and back up. 2, tuck your tailbone. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and back down and back up. 2, 3, 4, engage your glutes. 6, 7, keep dropping the tailbone under and exhale back down, back up. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and back down and back up. 2, I think this is 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and gently lower back down. Okay, we've got one more round to do together. Let's start with our abs, so laying down on the back, pelvic tilts to begin. So flatten out the lower back to the mat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and relax. Go for it a bit more strongly this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, tuck your tailbone. 6, 7, engage your abs. 9, 10, and relax. Last round. Flatten out the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and relax. Bird dogs. Okay, so let's go for the pelvic tilt again. Flatten out the back, lift the chest and reach the hands forwards. If this is enough, you could even stay here, or you can bring the legs up to 90 degrees. Can stay here, or go for touching the toes with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Bring the legs up, place them down, and relax. Okay, hip flexor stretches. Come back onto your knees and then step your right foot forwards first. And let's tuck the pelvis under, engage the abs, and then send the hips forwards towards the front heel. We're going to stay for a minute. Remember to breathe deeply. Engaging the glute at the back to send the hips towards the heel. It's halfway there. Last 10 seconds. See if you can increase the strength of your pelvic tilt to get a stronger stretch. 3, 2, 1, and relax. Push back onto the knees. Let's take the left foot forwards. Find the pelvic tilt, tuck the pelvis under, and then send your hips forwards into the stretch. Don't let your lower back arch, make sure it's flat and you're tucking the pelvis. Halfway there. Remember, if you want, the option is there. Lift the back foot and catch the foot behind you. I find it enough of a stretch just to be here as long as I'm tucking my tailbone strongly enough. Let's do 10 more seconds. Tuck the pelvis more. 3, 2, 1, and release. Last exercise. Let's strengthen the glutes. Come down onto your back. I'm going to use my band this time, but if you don't have one, don't worry. Just keep your hips up for 10 seconds whilst I do the pulses. So laying back, find your pelvic tilt, flatten out your lower back to the mat. Engage your glutes to squeeze the hips up, not too high. So we're not arching the back, we're keeping it flat. And then 5 pulses or just holding for 10 seconds. 3, 4, 5. And back down, keep the connection to the glutes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Slowly back down, stay connected. Round 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And back down. Round 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And last one, slowly down and back up. Squeeze your glutes. 2, 3, 4, 5, and then come back down. If you're using a band, you can release and then slowly come back up. Now, I recommend that you practice this sequence 2 to 3 times a day. So that was 3 rounds of each exercise because we did 3 sets. So do that once before breakfast, once before lunch, and once before dinner if you can. And I think you're going to notice a difference much more quickly than if you just do one massive session of exercises at the end of the day. Remember, we want to try and interrupt our body's pattern, its routine and its daily habits, because those habits at the moment are keeping us stuck in an anterior pelvic tilt. So we have to try and reprogram the muscles and even the muscle-brain connection to change the position of the pelvis. If you're not sure whether these exercises are suitable for you, please make sure that you share them with your physiotherapist, with a chiropractor, or with some sort of medical professional who can assess your unique body and your unique medical history and give you an idea as to whether they're appropriate for you. I hope these exercises are useful for you. Let me know how you get on. Leave me any questions or comments in the comment box below. And if you liked the video, then make sure you give it a big thumbs up to like it, and subscribe to my channel and click the bell to get notified whenever I post something new. Next week, we're going to do a similar video, but for a posterior pelvic tilt. So for those people who have the opposite problem, I'm going to share with you some exercises to practice outside of your daily yoga routine to help try and correct that condition. Make sure you tune in next week for that, and I'll see you soon.